Welcome to another vlog, and I think if you are interested into space or in general crazy bets on the stock market, then I think this is a video that you should really watch till the very end. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe and like for daily content and daily live streams. Now, if I post something just recently with the huge dump into the price of space, Virgin Galactic, then I see a lot of comments that, the company will never make it. Or the original shareholders are not trusting in this company. And executives are leaving the company. There will be further delays to the technologies. All of these reasons that I see all over the comments is something that is quite normal, guys, okay? For every asset there is outside, it was the same for Tesla, it was the same for Apple, it's the same for Bitcoin, it's the same for Amazon, it's the same for Netflix. We are going through the cycle with every single company that is doing something crazy and is changing markets, or something technology-wise, something totally in a different spectrum than the usual other companies, then you see exactly this kind of reactions on the markets, okay? And specifically, those people that are saying, oh, I told you so, or I definitely knew that this stock will go down. And yes, they are right? Short term, they are right. Now, the stock went from 60 to now somewhere around $23 because of bad news for the company, right? They rescheduled the test flight. So in the short term, they are right. But what they are missing is a huge point, which was very nicely made clear by a podcast that I was watching, okay? And the podcast consists usually of Shamas, who is the non-executive chairman of Virgin Galactic, also, Jason and other very, very successful businessmen and investors. And this time we had also Mr. Brett, who is also a very, very known Silicon Valley investor and, early investor in companies like Grab or other companies. And he's actually saying something very, very, very interesting, where he missed on opportunities and where he actually says about something about high conviction. So have a look.
Because what happens is we make short-term decisions, and then those short-term decisions oftentimes to prove to be right in the short term. And let me give you an example.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right.
And then it leads to behavioral lock-in.
Right.
So at the end of 2014, Bitcoin's at $1,100 a share. I get very interested in crypto. I think this is one of the most asymmetric bets I see in the world, right? I think it's a low probability event, but if you win, the size of the prize is absolutely gigantic, right? So we're looking at a deal with Andreessen because I thought Balaji was one of the smartest people in the space. The company was called 21.co, idea of mining for Bitcoin on a chip. On the eve of the deal, my partner and I said, you know what? I believe that we should place our bet in Bitcoin because I'm not sure whether or not this mining company is actually going to work out. Okay. So we pass on the deal. Bitcoin goes from 1,200 to 300 in like a straight line down. And what was my takeaway? My takeaway was like, man, I'm so smart. We passed on that deal. Okay. Rather than being curious, rather than learning more, rather than developing it. And what Andreessen did during that period of time is they stuck to their belief that this could be a highly asymmetric outcome. Ultimately, I ran into Katie Hahn, a board member at Coinbase, the night of the IPO. And she said, Brad, do you remember, 21.co? I was like, yeah. She goes, those were some of our original shares in Coinbase. We sold that company to Coinbase.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And it's just for me, I sent this note to our team because I said, you know what, guys, in the face of having some good wins, I want to remind you of some really potent near wins and misses. And my mistake at that point in time was I lacked mental flexibility. I got locked into this idea that I was really smart by having missed 21.co rather than learning from that moment and saying, listen, when I started to see it move, and then it moved pretty quickly and I was like, oh, I missed it. It's just like a stock. We do the same thing. The reality is you should allocate to things that you think are thematically highly asymmetric and great ideas. And this was one of them and one we missed.
Can I just add something to that? I was in 21.
So as you can see, let me translate what he's saying. So we talked about the short-term decisions, right? I mean, the naysayers are saying, wow, no, this stock will never make it. And they rescheduled the test flight. And actually what the stock does, it loses 60% of its value, okay? If it's really, valuable, it's hard to say because there's not really a metrics, right? I mean, you can use a discounted cash flow value for future revenue, but it really doesn't, justify the price increase or the price drop of 50, 60, 70% for a stock, okay? So this set aside, the valuation is always something what the market decides, okay? The market is a voting machine, so it can go very, very much up with a momentum of news and development for a company, and on the other side, it can crash from one day on the other. So you see here that people are saying, the company will never make it or will never be successful, and then they are proven right by a short-term event and the stock goes down and they say, oh yes, I'm right, so I will not invest into that, okay? And this kind of price decreases we have seen again in Amazon, in Bitcoin, in Netflix. So all of this company went through this kind of things because in the early stages is very, very volatile. Rights are the day-to-day business for this kind of companies, okay? We are talking now about Virgin Galactic, a $5.5 billion company, okay? It's microscopic on the scale of what the space industry can actually give us, okay? So that's for once. But then he's talking about something, and I don't know if it's in the snippet or later on in the podcast, but I think that's super, super interesting when he says something like, keep your eyes on the price, which is translated in something like, what will happen if we are right long term? Okay, and let me translate it to a very, very simple form. Let us assume that Virgin Galactic, against all odds, because every business has huge risks and technology risk and industry risk, competition risk and team risks and many, many, many risks. So it's always balance of execution and market and product features and so on to make the company sustainable over a couple of years. But if the management is great and the product is great and there's demand for the product and the marketing is great, then, people and companies can be successful. Now, what is happening when space will succeed? I mean, they went already 2 times to space. They are fixing now the spaceship and make it ready, the whole operation ready for the customers that go to space. And actually, if they will send up the Italian Air Force into space end of the year, maybe beginning of the year, if there will be some other delays, and then we'll start to bring people into space, and they will really do it, what would be the price? And then even further than that, if they build a multi-year operation, if you have this mindset thinking the next 10 years, build a multinational, so an international operation with many spaceports, with sending thousands of people into space, lowering the costs, having a huge profit margin, software-like profit margin of 60-70%, then introducing the Mach 3 airplanes, and so on and so forth. What if they really will do it? Okay, what is the price? Then I believe that the company will be at least like a $200 or $300 billion company. And again, valuation can be fluctuate. Maybe at some point it will be even a $350 billion company. And on the other side, when the market cools down a bit again in a couple of years or maybe in a decade, maybe it goes down to 200 or 150. The company currently you can buy for $5 billion. This means at a $200 billion company value, and just to remind you guys, Airbnb has a revenue of about $4 billion and is worth more than $150 billion. Coinbase has $2 billion or $3 billion revenue and had over for a very short time a market value of more than $100 billion. So you can see how fast this can go with a very, very small amount of revenue if you are in a very, very innovative space. So think about that. If they are making it, okay? and you have this asymmetric growth of value, then you're talking about a 40 times X. Yes, there's thousands of ways what cannot work out, but there's even thousands of ways how this successful company can be furthermore successful, okay? So if you put in this mindset and think long-term rather than letting short-term decisions and outcomes that will confirm your short-term decisions influence your investment style, you will lose on many opportunities there, okay? I have seen that multiple times playing out exactly what I just said, okay? Against all the odds, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, even other companies, okay? Kodak and all of these other companies that, in the 80s, 70s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, there was always those companies that against all the odds made it. And what was the reward for the investors that could think long-term and observe the steps by the company step by step? Even Jeff Bezos said, he saw the price of Amazon stock went from, I don't know, remember the numbers, but from 100 to 50 and then to 20 or something. But he saw in the company, they're making, steps forward, right? The numbers were growing, more warehouses, more clients, more shipments, So the stock is not equaling the company achievements. So you can always find those very, very, very undervalued companies, like I saw, for example, early on in Apple and invested a lot in Apple. I invested a lot in Tesla before of the blow up, before maybe even about Tesla stock. I was already in because I saw the undervalued piece of this company and the market and the product. And now I'm having a real high conviction in space as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I think this is something very, very important. Let me know in the comments what you think. And let's go to space.